Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Toma. I'm your host, Jason Bowler. This is episode 18, the Strength Audit, and it is our first episode on YouTube. So, if this is your first time seeing me in action, I deeply apologize. All right, let's get started. It is New Year, New Me for everyone, correct? If you're trying to do a New Year's resolution, you're trying to improve your life, you've been listening to this podcast, we're raring to go. But the hard truth for the New Year, New Me men out there is that sometimes we avoid the even harder truth of where we are when we start. Sometimes folks will avoid that truth all the way up to and sometimes even beyond, depending on how deep in denial that they really are. One of those dreaded hospital visits when the doctor gives you the real hard truth, whether you like it or not. So let's try to prevent that visit. In order to do that, we're going to need to change a little bit. But in order to change, we have to know where we are. So that's why we need a strength audit. Right now, we got a head full of motivation, but we know how that works out. Motivation is fleeting. We even have a starter plan. We discussed that in December. We talked about our goals. We talked about habits. We talked about reps. We talked about routines. But one thing we haven't mentioned is the truth that comes when we start looking at our real starting points, which is just how far off are we? Because we need to know that before we begin. Hence the strength audit. Before we start to rebuild, we must first measure the damage. Okay. So there ain't a body shop guy on the planet that isn't going to want to look over a damaged vehicle with a fine tooth comb before they determine what it's going to take to restore it. And if you've ever been trapped on the couch while your wife was watching something like Chip and Joanna, you know that the first thing they do is look over the house before Chip gets all excited and takes a sledgehammer to what doesn't work in the house. And that's what we're basically trying to do. We're looking at ourselves through this strength audit, and then we're going to take a sledgehammer to the parts that aren't working for us anymore, and we're going to get ourselves out of a rut. So that's what we're doing. Every comeback story starts with that moment of honesty. Honestly, it's literally the first step in Alcoholics Anonymous, because you can't possibly address an issue if you don't admit that there's an issue. If you've ever tried to fix your health, your discipline, your mindset, your marriage, just using hype and motivation, I mean, you know how quickly that's going to fall apart. Why? Because hype is for t-shirts and motivation comes and goes. There's no real assessment going on of where the situation is. It hasn't been done. And just saying, I don't know, man, it's just all messed up. That's not going to work. It's not going to help you get to fix what needs fixing. Again, some men love to talk about New Year, New Me, but the truth is most of us are New Year, same old patterns. But that's good news too, because patterns can be changed, but only after they're seen. And that's what today's all about. So we got to start with the 5 domains of strength. The strength audit that we're doing has 5 domains. They are the pillars that determine how we show up in the world. And I'm pulling this from a combination of sources. So you got Army's 5 dimensions of personal readiness, which includes physical, emotional, social, spiritual, and family. You have SPIRE, that's SPIRE. That's a whole being thing, which includes spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional. And you have Gallup, which includes career, social, financial, physical, and community. Every one of these have to do with holistic health. The better our holistic health, the better we are. It's that simple. It's essentially our quest as middle-aged men to climb our way to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's supercharged because we don't really want to stop at the basics. We want to get to self-actualization. We want to be running like well-oiled machines in our middle age so that we can get to being independent thinkers capable of the intense joy, wonder, fulfillment, along with realizing our full potential and becoming everything we're capable of being, so that we can then pass that on to the next generation. And hopefully the next generation will reach self-actualization. But with each generation that goes by that doesn't get to self-actualization or even close sometimes, the further down our society seems to go. Let's see if we can't make it to the mountaintop or the pyramid and then look back and help others. So that's what we have to do. And the first thing is we have to see where we are. How far down the pyramid are we, and how much further do we have to go to get to the top? Number one, we're going to look at physical strength. I don't just mean how much can you bench. Okay. It's good to have muscles. It's good to have physical strength. It's good to be able to handle yourself if somebody jumps out at you from a dark alley. All those things are great, but we normally don't have it in middle age. If we do, it's short bursts, but there's no endurance there. And the longer it's been since we've been active, the worse it is. When I talk about strength again, I don't just mean weightlifting. I mean, do you have energy? Sustainable energy. After you've done all your other things that you need to do, all your other obligations that you need to take care of as a man, is there any room in your life to continue to explore things that bring you joy? Do you even feel like getting up and going hunting or fishing or hiking or any of that? Or are you just plumb wore out just from doing the bare minimum, which is to hold down a job, raise kids, pay bills? Mobility. Mobility is a huge one. A lot of people lose their mobility as they get older because they just quit stretching. But can you bend and stretch and do any of the things that you used to do as a kid without ending up in the hospital? Could you, if you had to? Could you run from a zombie? Or would you be the reason that everyone else got away because the zombie's just going to go for the slowest person? Is that you? Are you zombie bait? Rest. Are you getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night? If not, if there's a medical issue, are you addressing this with your doctor? Fuel. Are you putting things in your body that optimize your performance? Are you building yourself up? Or are you breaking yourself down? Because you're either doing one or you're doing the other. We are constantly in a state of change. We do not stay the same. We're either bending to nature's will, which is falling into the comfort trap, or we are fighting comfort and changing to get better. Sad fact of the matter is that the great truth of life is that death comes for us all, but comfort gets us there a whole lot quicker than maybe when we want to go. So something to keep in mind. And then number two is mental strength. Focus. Can you perform under pressure without going into freak out mode, anxiety mode? Can you put all your attention into something important so that it gets done correctly the first time, like our parents used to tell us, and the amount of time it should take versus dragging it out? Clarity. Do you understand where you're going and why you're going there in your life? Or are you allowing yourself to be thrown around like those beach balls at the College World Series? Decision making. Are you staying on task when you'd rather drift? So let's say you're in a public place and it hits the fan in some way. Have you built yourself up to be cool under pressure, or at least not the one crying in the fetal position in the corner? Are you helpful, or are you a liability when the pressure's on? That is mental strength. Number three, emotional strength. It's not about being soft. It's about being stable. Do you react to things or do you respond? When I was at my worst, I could be controlled like a puppet. All you had to do was talk crap about my favorite football team, and there would be cheap entertainment for anyone that was around because I would get just plumb silly with it. Everybody knew, or the people that know me best knew what buttons to push, and that I would react and crazy redneck guy would come out. But that was not the way to respond. I was reacting, not responding. Leaders don't react, they respond. So save the anger for the punching bag. Do you have control over yourself? An out of control man is not a good man. A man in control has emotional strength. Do you numb out or do you address issues? Because on the flip side of reacting to everything, sometimes people numb themselves out and hide from all their problems just to avoid confrontation when you may actually be better off stepping up and addressing the problem. Are you avoiding feelings through comfort, food, screens, or busyness that leads to nothing accomplished just for the sake of busyness? Four, you have your structural strength. This is the system domain, the one that men ignore the most. This is your routines, your non negotiables, your morning and evening structure, your habits, your planning. You cannot outwork bad structure. This is the discipline piece. And discipline does create more freedom in your life, as backwards as that sounds to some people. But I'll use the most extreme example here to prove my point. If you don't believe that discipline does lead to freedom, I don't personally care for arbitrary rules just for the sake of rules. I've always been a little bit rebellious, but some folks hate any authority whatsoever. But let's say you fail to follow any rules because you want to be free to do whatever it is you want to do. And ultimately, you break the rules that end you up in jail, where all of a sudden have no freedom at all. So, just by virtue of being self disciplined enough to obey the law and not going around committing crimes, keeps people out of jail and they are therefore more free. I know that's the extreme version of discipline equals freedom, but the rule applies for almost anything. The more you exercise, the fewer days you're likely to spend of your retirement sitting in the doctor's office when you could be free to go fishing instead. Number 5, relational strength. Men need men, period. Brotherhood, mentorship, accountability, iron sharpening iron. Isolation is where a lot of midlife destruction happens. And for those of you that have been longtime listeners, remember my hard turn the wrong way started because I was in a new town with a new job that had me working from home, and I had plenty of time to overthink and overdrink, which is exactly what I did. Brotherhood is essential because brothers will keep us in check if they're the right kind of brothers. And if you don't have any brothers that will keep you in check and call you out when you need it, then you probably need new brothers. So these are the 5 domains. They're the blueprint for everything that's going to happen this month for us if we're going to really start that change. So how do we score ourselves? How do we know? Well, this is where you have to be 100% honest with yourself, and you don't have to share this with anyone else. It's just for you. But for each domain, you're going to rank yourself from 1 to 5. This is the part where you say, okay, 1 being the lowest, 3 being somewhere in the middle, 5 being the highest. So 1 is this part of my life. Out of those 5 domains, I think that this part of my life is collapsing or has already collapsed. And if you have a couple of domains that score this low, then you have to look at the bright side here. If you have 2 out of the 5 domains that are scored at a 1 or a 2, you have the best opportunity to have the biggest comeback story. So this could be a good thing, right? So you have to start setting your mind in that thought that the lower I am, the further I can go up, right? So don't be discouraged if you have a 1 or a 2. That's just a better chance to prove a bunch of people wrong. Number 3 is you're functional, but a little sloppy. Like you're sitting right in the middle. Just remember that folks usually go one way or the other. You can't stay in the middle. No one gets to stay in the middle. You either get better or you get worse at some point. That's just a vacation spot. And it may take years, but eventually you're going to fall back to 2 or 1 more than likely if you're sitting at a 3 and don't address it to keep going. And then number 5, strong, consistent, reliable. If you're 5s, man, you're rolling. You just keep doing what you got to do. But I will say, not to offend anyone, but there's nobody out there sitting at a 5 at all 5 of these. And if they are, they should be trying to figure out how to be a 6, because none of us ever reach perfection. That is part of the journey, is to try to get there. You have to honestly assess yourself. That's what's going to really matter the most. What questions should you ask yourself about each domain in order to figure out if you're a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Well, what's working? That's question number 1. What's working? Not everything is broken, more than likely. So identify your foundation, your jumping off point, your launch pad. Where are you? Where are you sitting real high? What's working for you? Number 2, what's the weakest for you? Where are the cracks in your armor? Number 3, what's missing? What does the next level require of me that I currently do not have? So if I'm sitting at a 3 in physical ability, and let's say I'll run a mile a day and I lift 3 days a week, and I'm still stuck on 3, what's missing? Maybe it's my nutrition, right? Maybe I need to hydrate better, and I need to amp up my protein, and I need to hide all the sweets. And then number 4, What needs to be rebuilt first? What is the biggest priority of the five for you? And this is going to be personal to you. You have to choose one to focus on. You can't declare war on all fronts. You're going to give up more than likely. You need to pick one and make that your goal. Focus creates power. Just remember that. And I would be strategic about it myself. For example, physical affects mental and emotional so much that just by virtue of making physical your number one goal, there's going to be other things that are going to gradually come up behind it. And so, being strategic, if you want to kind of cheat that and put all your focus on physical and then also pull up some mental and some emotional, that's not a bad plan. I promise you it works. So let's talk about the real starting line. We're not chasing the hype. We're creating a actual blueprint for our futures. Our strength audit is our truth, and our truth is the foundation that we're going to use to rebuild. Most men, no men really, need more motivation. They need accurate information about themselves because once you know where you're actually standing, the path forward becomes brutally simple. It's not easy. Nobody ever said it was easy, but it is simple. So the rebuild begins today. Next week, we're going to move from assessment to talking about the resistance because the resistance is real. It typically comes from within. And about the time you get going good and you're on your way is when that resistance is going to start to show up. So we're going to learn how to identify that and defeat that so that we can continue to move forward. This is Toma. I'm Jason Bowler. We'll catch you next episode. And don't forget, check me out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere a podcast can be found. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Reach out to me. I love to hear from listeners. Anytime you want to powwow with me about anything, just do so. And have a good week.